Hello again, it's Joe Yudin from Touring Israel, Luxury Private Tours, and today we have an art specialist who does our art tours in Tel Aviv and other places around Israel. Her name is Sarah Paguine. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, hello.
How are
Good
you
to
doing?
see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Hopefully, we'll be able to see each other in person soon. So, I guess it was 8, 9, 10 years ago. I don't remember when, but I had these tourists coming in from Manhattan, and they were really into art, and I knew that I was in way over my head. And I did a little research online, and I came across your blog, and I gave you a call, and we met in Tel Aviv. And I'm like, oh, this is the person. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You've been doing our art tours ever since, and when people are interested in purchasing art as well, Israeli art, you talk to them and you find out what their interests are, and then you take them to the right dealers and the right artists. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got into this art world, which is really thriving here in Israel.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic art scene. So I was born actually in France. I never lived there, but my mom is from south of France, from Aix-en-Provence. And then we moved to Tel Aviv. I lived here for the first 12 years of my life. And from there, we went to Belgium. And then I went to study history of art at the Courtauld Institute, which specializes in history of art in London. And that's where really I kind of became super passionate about this field. And when I came back to Tel Aviv, I immediately fell in love with this amazing art scene. And I wanted to kind of share it with the world. And I opened a blog, which was kind of like a virtual guide to the local art scene. And with the years, I worked in a gallery here, asking me and since then with you, I was always so happy to collaborate with you, and it was a very meaningful meeting for me.
Right. No, I mean, I like the way, through me anyway. I know you do other tours where you do group tours and things like that, but with us, we talk to the people, we find out what they want. You do a really in-depth study of what kind of art that people are into and what kind of art they already own, and you totally curtail or cater the tour to what our tourist style is and what they like. So I mean, that's what that really struck me. Jono just had up there your Art Source website. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So when I was working at the gallery, like that's many years ago, I also met my colleague Michal Friedman, who was directing one of the major galleries here in Tel Aviv, and we started this colleague-friendly relationship. And with the years, we kind of realized that there's this need for an online home for Israeli art, which now with the corona and everything makes perfectly sense. Everyone is going online. Because again, kind of my vision is to support the local art scene, support Israeli artists, and bring them to the fore, and bring them to both the local audience and also the international community, which this is something we're doing also with your tours. Yeah, it's amazing. We work with emerging artists, and also with very, very established names like Chen Shish, for example, Adi Nes, and we do a lot of content also. Mostly, like lately, it's been we have the podcast, we have an online magazine, and we have a very active kind of social media channel. But yeah, all the time with this vision of promoting contemporary art from Israel, which I find personally fascinating.
Right,
And
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm looking at this. I mean, it's overwhelming to me. My knowledge of art, of Israeli art, really ends with Agam and Kadishman and Rubens and Nachman Gutman. I mean, that's about it. So I'm looking at these new artists, and I mean, it really blows me away the scene in Israel, and especially in Tel Aviv, is just it's an amazing scene. It's a popular scene. It's happening. I see when I visit some of my friends and clients in New York, I see Israeli art on their wall, and they educate me about it. So it's really great, this project that you're doing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the art scene today in Israel? Maybe a little bit about your tours. Maybe show us some works that you're into.
So you mentioned before, like the way we work together on the tours is that really each tour is personalized to the customer. We send out even a questionnaire which they answer, and then each tour is really different because it's unique and it's tailored to their wishes and interests. Many of the tours today take place in the south of Tel Aviv, because that's where the art scene is moving. There are 3 reasons for that. There's a picture with the building of that area of Tel Aviv, which you see. It's not tourists are always surprised to get there because it's not the most touristic area, not at all. It's called Kiryat HaMelacha, and it was founded in the 60s. It's like the quarter of small industries. And in the past 10 years, there's a huge shift to that area because of the prices. Tel Aviv is of and so a lot of artists work from there because you have lots of nice spaces, and also galleries. Also, the type of spaces that you can find there are very appropriate to show contemporary art, like large-scale installations, video art, etc. And for the galleries, it's interesting to be there because it's very close to the artist studios, so very convenient. This picture is actually from Jaffa, which is many times confused with the south of Tel Aviv. It's another area. It's in the south of Tel Aviv, but not the area I just mentioned. This is a new private museum called Magazine 3. And it's a satellite branch of a Swedish private museum called Magazine 3, which has been around for over 30 years. And they show, the space is just beautiful. It's in Jaffa, very typical to Jaffa. And this is Tal Ar, an amazing Israeli-Danish artist. So I like to take people also to Jaffa because there's it used to be very kind of traditional, kind of small workshops, but now there's like a very contemporary feel to it, with a lot of international venues also opening up there, like this museum, and also a French gallery that moved there. So Jaffa is becoming there's this very international feel to it. So also another thing we do at the tours is that we not only go to galleries and museums, we also go to studios, artist studios. Because I think with like many of your tours, we try to kind of give this like behind the scenes opportunity to meet the artist, discuss with them.
A lot of my tours just they also want to meet the artist and buy a piece and take a picture with the artist with the piece that they've bought. Absolutely, and you make that happen.
Yeah, I do my best. Yeah. So this is, for example, we see actually one of the most important. Like, if you would ask me who are the one of the top living Israeli artists, I would mention Zoya Cherkassky. She's also becoming very big in the US with shows there. She had an amazing review at the New York Times recently. And she's a painter, also does sculptures. She talks a lot about Israeli society and culture and her identity. She made her aliyah in the 90s from USSR, and I think this is also when people try to kind of ask me, what is Israeli art, which is such a broad question. I think one of the main themes that come back many times is this quest for identity, to define who we are, what it means to be Israeli, what it means to live here. Yeah.
Right. It's interesting that you say that because, Israelis, they come from all over they have roots from all over the world. Today, most Israelis are born in Israel, but in America, we always have this idea of the kibbutz and the Ashkenazim, the Central and Eastern European Jews that created the state, and that's what the state's all about. And all we eat is gefilte fish, and really that's not the case. Half of Israelis have their roots in the Middle East, and the Jewish people came from all over the world, and there's a substantial minority here of people who aren't Jewish, who are Christian and Muslim and Baha'i and Druze and what have you. And so what is an Israeli? It's really this mix of all these different cultures, and it comes out in various places, one being the culinary scene and the second being the art world, correct?
Definitely. We're really, it might sound like a cliche, but we're a melting pot. This is what makes Israel, and also its culture, and obviously also the art. People can bring their cultural kind of background, and that's what they depict, and that's what they talk about in their art. I eat gefilte fish, but I also ate my mom's couscous. So we're like, it's all these different cultures. By the way, I have also a work of art behind me, just realized, which is one of this is it's kind of like tilted because of the computer, but it's an emerging photographer. I also love her work, and it's basically what she did. I don't know if you can really see it, but she took pictures of all the flats she ever lived in, which is actually 26, photographed them, made this like model in her studio, and then rephotographed them as a sort of collage to show how, she's made up of all these different places.
What is her name?
Yeah, just an anecdote. Vera Vladimirsky.
So do you have some more pictures to show us?
Yes, let's bring them up and I will show them. We have a new tour we've been doing together. Actually, this is just before we talk about that. This is Boaz Noy. He's a Haifa-based artist, but I take people to see his work here in Tel Aviv. And I love his paintings because on the one hand, and the people really, really love what he does. On the one hand, they kind of refer to history of art, to like modernist artists, like Cézanne, for example, or impressionist artists as well. And on the other hand, it has something very local and very contemporary with his use of paint. You can't really see the details here, but he loves to paint just his daily life from the surroundings of his studio in Haifa to his trips to Jerusalem, to Tel Aviv.
What stands out to me on two of those three pictures anyway are the Bauhaus buildings. Is that part of a lot of what he paints?
Yeah, he paints a lot of, he has a connection to architecture, and he loves, urban scenes, but that have, it looks very contemporary, but it could also be something made, during the beginning of the 20th century. So it's this like mix that I like, but also very Tel Avivian, very Jerusalem, very Haifa. This is me in action, but this is in a different artists we work with. Some are more established, like Zoya Cherkassky that we mentioned. This is a more emerging artist called Aviv Greenberg. He deals with all these cleaning materials and tools. This is very typical to kind of like 70s, 80s in Tel Aviv, in Israel. These, I don't know how you call it, but you can clean carpets with them. And he created this nice sculpture. Yeah. And he actually buys all these materials in the south of Tel Aviv where he lives. really the south of Tel Aviv is where everything is happening in terms of art.
Down in the whole flea market area there, you could find just about anything. It's
Yeah.
and then the little galleries and cafes and pubs and restaurants that are just scattered around all these little, 100, 200, 300-year-old shops where you can buy things like that, and a carpet cleaner from 100 years ago that's now a beautiful work of art. What are we looking at here? It looks like some pottery.
You're mentioning the flea market and all these pubs and places, and I'm like, oh my God, it feels like another world. Bring me back.
Right.
Anyway, this is so which brings me to a new tour we've been doing recently together, which is Crafted in Tel Aviv. And it was born from both personal interest for design as opposed to fine art, and also from kind of like your tourists and your customers who I felt were interested in that, and there was like a request for that. So we created a tour which is kind of merging these two worlds, and it's called Crafted in Tel Aviv, and it's really me exploring the connection between fine art, so painting, sculpture, all of that, and local design like ceramic work. This is Gorin Bar. Actually, it has a beautiful story. It's plates that he created in collaboration with chef Alain Ducasse, who is like a superstar French chef. And yeah, they found the restaurants that they created. They found the Gore through his Instagram. So it again shows you like I have two passions, which is art and social media, and it just shows you the strength of social media and how a local Israeli designer in his studio in south of Tel Aviv can suddenly create a whole set of plates and cups for this superstar of a chef. And I think they're beautiful. They're all unique and all kind of like hand painted.
Very nice.
What else do we have? So this is also part of this new tour. This is also in Jaffa. It's in the flea market, and it's a young Israeli designer. Her name is Neta. Her studio is called Knot Studio, and she creates these sort of pieces of furniture and pillows made of knots, just beautifully kind of intertwined.
And do people use them, or are they just works of art that you put in a corner to make it look like it's usable, but you really never sit on them?
So that's exactly the difference between fine art and design. Fine art, you put it on your wall to enjoy and look at it on your walls. And design, it's also functional. You can, this is, for example, this vessel, you can put flowers in it. So I'm interested in this intersection because on the one hand, you can use it. On the other hand, it's also painted and it's like a painting or a sculpture. So I like this tension.
So a lot of the ceramics that I've seen when I'm guiding is in the old city of Jaffa and all those little shops and the little alleyways amongst all the ruins and Mamluk and Ottoman buildings from 300, 400, 500 years ago. Is this the same area, or has the ceramic world really expanded into the rest of southern Tel Aviv?
It's a different area. This is back to Kiryat HaMelacha.
Okay.
And also I love showing like emerging designers. So for example, Gorin Bar graduated, I think, in 2015 from the Bezalel Academy in Jerusalem, which is the biggest art and design academy and oldest one. So in design, there's a lot of Israeli design, as you say, like from more kind of traditional to today. I'm more interested in because that's what I do, in contemporary design, which is very creative and interesting. Actually, also I feel like what makes this scene so fascinating is also the fact that, we talk about the startup nation and Israel being so creative, and you can see it with the food, you can see it with the different fields, and obviously the most creative place to be creative is with art, right? So yeah.
So what are we looking at Ooh, with here we have a, is that a real tree?
Yeah, it's a real tree. This is also very, also wanted to show you a photography.
Okay.
This is Tal Shochat, and she's a very established photographer. And this is from a series of work she did with very typical Israeli local trees that she photographs within the field. So it can be in the north of Israel or in nature. And every time she comes to that setting and creates this, puts a background, like a screen. It can be a black screen like this one. It can be a carpet. It can be a white screen. And she's kind of interested in that tension between the artificial and the natural. They're
That
very
tree,
striking.
very striking. That's a loquat tree. Loquats are, I mean, this bright orange. It's about half the size of a mandarin orange, and it's a very Middle Eastern tree, or
Very
maybe
like summery also, right? Like I think
very
you have
what? Summer, right? Like
like yeah.
right now they just started selling those fruits in the market, and so did she actually put a black backdrop in the field behind the tree and start taking pictures of it?
Yeah, she really goes to the field and documents nature. She comes with a team, it's almost like I don't know, like a movie setting, movie set. And yeah, and she creates this background and really puts all the attention to the tree itself. And a tree can have a lot of, symbolic references. An
Right.
olive tree will have one reference, loquet. I don't know how you say that word, but yeah, loquet. Yeah, has another, yeah, nature, and has a lot of cultural, social, political meanings and references.
Right. Here's one of your tours.
Yeah, I also wanted to share one of those pictures in action again. So I feel like in my tours, so we meet artists, like we meet also the gallerist and the art professionals, if it's the curator, the gallery owner, and that makes it every time very unique and different. But another thing that makes it very different each time, it's the people that are participating in the tour, so I always encourage them to be engaged, ask questions, and really bring their thoughts and their beliefs and background to the tour. So I learn a lot from the participants as well, because art it's not like a science. It's not black or white. It's a personal interpretation at the end of the day.
Right. I know whenever I bring a group to you, and I tag along a group or just a couple of people, I'm always blown away because your knowledge and the people that you introduce us to is just so great and so specific and so much focused in the art world. It's better, in my opinion, it's better than any tour guide who's got to know a lot about everything, can ever really give out. Here we have a little pop art, I assume.
So this is the same artist we mentioned before with the the carpet cleaners, and it's Aviv Greenberg. I just thought it's just a funny, he's fascinated with cleaning agents, and I just thought it's very relevant to these times of Corona. Actually, he put one of the pictures of this installation. It's an actual art installation. He put it on his Instagram, and it really went viral because people connect to it. It's so relevant.
Amazing. With the rainbow, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah Paguine, it's always an honor to speak with you. It was a real pleasure. Hopefully I'll be out on tour again with some tourists and with you in Tel Aviv and Haifa and Jerusalem and other places, so we can check out what's going on in the art world. People, check out her website. What was it again?
It's Art Source. You can also follow us on Instagram and enjoy artistic content from from Israel. And I just want to thank you, Joe. Really, I love collaborating with you, and I loved seeing you and chatting. So can't wait to see you in real life, and also to see all the tourists. And
I don't think it'll be too much longer. Maybe another month, maybe 2 months, but I think that'll be it, and things will start to get better.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Again, Sarah, shout out to Jonathan Rose in the background, the
thank you, Jonathan,
and Condé Nast Traveler Israel Specialist for 2020, and pulling the strings behind the scenes here at my podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. Please subscribe, share, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot, Sarah.
Bye. Thank you so much.